Have you ever thought about all the labels we have in this society? Either someone is an shy, or someone is confident, or someone is outgoing, or someone is an introvert. What about overachiever versus underachiever? Today in Living Intentional, the podcast, I want to share with you, with the help of my friend Andrea, the tale of two healing journeys and how two people who survived trauma became different things in the healing journey. So stay tuned and we'll be back in a second. Welcome to Living Intentionally, the podcast that empowers driven women to get unstuck and to take their personal and professional lives to the next level. I'm your host, Carmen Benton. I am here to help you create the life you truly desire without burning out. As a leading expert in living with amplified alignment between your mind, your energy, and your soul purpose, I'll be sharing valuable insights on mindset, energy, self-care, business, and much more. Plus, you get to hear from inspired women who have successfully built businesses and lives that are both meaningful and fulfilling. Join us as we dive into the topic that matter most and uncover the secrets to living intentional. As I mentioned, we're going to be delving today into overachiever versus underachiever, the journey towards healing. And for that, I have a very special guest with me today. Her name is Andy Griggs, and she teaches women in Hollywood. I feel famous already. How to manage their minds, process their stress, and create an impactful vision for their Hollywood career. Andy believes that when you are in tune with who you are, your originality, your creativity, your spirit, and that when you know how to manage your mind, you become unstoppable. I am so excited to have this conversation with you, Andy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carmen, for having me. I think what you're doing is incredible, giving lots of insight on trauma so that people can start to see themselves and pick up wisdom on their healing journey. I think it's amazing. So thank
Thank,
you.
thank you for saying those kind words. And yes, what I wanted to intend with this next series that is going to be aired at the podcast is to shine the light on what is at the other side of trauma. Because when you are in the midst of it, you think like that's it. Your life is over, everything is ruined, and it's very easy to like not keep pushing forward and have the hope to go beyond the healing journey. And so I'm going to be sharing with you and some amazing people who have overcome some sort of trauma in their life. What is it to be at the other side? And i want um I want to frame the story from Andy with the fact that we're going to be talking about how both of us have healed trauma, yet I became an overachiever when Andy, although she's in Hollywood, right? But she labeled herself, there's some area in her life right after the trauma where she tagged herself as an underachiever. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Thank you. Of course, I had a lot of abusive situations in my family growing up. And I also, on top of that, had incredibly random violent attacks on myself as a young adult. And those two things really shifted how I viewed the world. And I went from wanting to make people miserable on a daily basis to really shifting who I am and being the person who wants to really help and promote that healing. And so to go from this seething anger and separateness to someone who can just be there many times without judgment has been an incredible journey.
I bet. And just, talking with you prior to the podcast, I mean, your energy, it just projects so much love and grace and appreciation. And it is amazing to see how healing is possible, right?
Absolutely.
And so you were telling me last time that we talked that, you became an underachiever. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So when I look at, it's funny because when we were speaking, your story of, you know, beautiful college and fantastic career, I've always kind of been under the radar. I didn't go to college. I dropped out. I actually was attacked on my college campus and
Mhm.
basically left school, flunked, didn't do anything. I was like, I'm just going to go do whatever. And I kind of knocked around Hollywood in different jobs. I worked at a theme park. I went into talent agencies, but always as an assistant. And even to this day, my career, which spans over 30 years, 25 of them have been as an executive assistant. And I have felt very safe in that position. And it's been within the last, I would say, 5 years where I was certified as a life coach and I started taking on clients that I started stepping into really what my future could possibly be. And it took all of that healing work and a very long journey to get to that position. But I did it all wrong. I didn't go to school. I didn't get married first. I like everything was backwards and I had to work through the anger and the insecurities and really that separateness that I created. I still don't like big groups. I'm very tentative. I lack a lot of trust. Those are issues that are left over, I think, from the trauma and just how I was raised and with whom I was raised with.
I just want to say you didn't do anything wrong, right? Everything evolved and unfolded beautifully the way it needed to, so the world can have Andy the way it is, full of love and light today. So I'm going
Thank
to
you.
say, and
I
thank you for
completely agree.
going through the pain to get here.
I
But
know, right? I am so happy that I've gone through. I wouldn't change. And I know people think, why would you ever say that? Why would you truly feels they wouldn't go through again to get to the point? But I love my life. And that is also something that is just so incredibly special to me and that I hold dear that I never thought I would have on this journey.
yes. So do you feel, let me put a context here. So I became an overachiever to get what I was lacking. My trauma began with emotional neglect. And so I became the best at everything I could touch because I wanted to get the praise from my mom. And you know what? Flash news. I'm 48 years old. I still don't get the praise. Good thing I'm over it. But I became the best student. And then when I went to college, literally the decision, the way I made the decision to become a mechanical engineer was I took like the book where all the credits are and I said, which is the degree that has the most credits? That's how it came. And this is a real story. So I did that, and I'm like, oh, I'm not just gonna get one. I'm gonna get two. So I got two engineering degrees. Then I got an MBA from Harvard. Then I, went to work in corporate America. I didn't stop until I became a vice president. I had a corner office and all, the accolades that are meant to be successful and happy, and still feeling miserable because that wasn't really what I needed to do to heal myself. But see, that's what I did to protect myself. That's how I was coping with the persona that was created with my trauma. On the other hand, you decided to go under the radar, as you said it. And so, do you think that for you that was more of like "f you world," type of thing?
Totally. Absolutely. I really weaponized myself and I
Mm.
say that I was the toughest, smartest person. I was raised, my father was a World War II tail gunner who literally felt that emotions were for, weak people. And that was really taught to me at an early age. I was also incredibly isolated when I was growing up. Unfortunately, with the abuse of my father and my grandfather, and just my father's abusive nature, he'd been married. My mom was the last of six marriages. I was the last of nine children. And what I found out later is that, which makes sense now, is that each woman he married was rescued by a family member.
Mhm.
literally rescued. And by the time he got to my mom didn't have anyone. And so we were isolated. We weren't allowed friends. The first 5 years of my life, it was just very isolating is the best word. And so I didn't feel smart or confident. And quite honestly, the my anxiety, my really like fear-based hypervigilance
Mhm.
kept me from being good in school. So it just wasn't an opportunity. And when you're not good at something, then you become the opposite. So I was never in school. I did People who got great grades would come to me and be like, "How do you ditch and not get caught?" Like that was my journey. And so that angry, literally, I'm an angry eater. I don't know I
Mhm.
don't know how to describe that level of intense seething anger, going through your childhood into your teenage years, which, plus hormones. Um, I just didn't fit in, and I was like, "F you, world. If I'm not gonna fit in, I'm gonna make you miserable. I'm gonna not care about anyone, and I'm not gonna do it anyway." And then the people who really adopted me were the people who came from very tough backgrounds themselves. And
Mhm.
and so, I was basically raised by people who were, hustlers or women who made their living from hooking. So hustlers and hookers, and they were amazing and helped me become the person that I am today. But it was a struggle to find, my own place.
Yeah, it is very fascinating. And I see that, I mean, I see it with my siblings, I see it with my children, right? Set of children with the same circumstances, same set of parents, same screw ups, same socioeconomic, access, same schools, yet everybody react to trauma differently. And it doesn't make it one better than the other. I always said that the way I reacted, it's probably the most socially accepted way, but it was really detrimental to my own relationships because I was so caught up into the I must get the praise, I need to be the best. I was working 80 hours a week. You don't have time to nurture your children or have a loving relationship when you all you think about is how can I be the best all the time.
Yeah, you're still abusing yourself
Yeah.
in a way to escape, your trauma.
Hmm.
And it yes, you're right. It is much more socially acceptable to do it the way that you've done it. And, you know, understandably, it is just as detrimental as telling the world I hate you. Because when you're living from a place of I hate you versus a place of I want to fit in with you and I'm going to be the best of you, like
Yeah.
neither has balance.
No, it doesn't, and it is so mess up. I think, and this is one of the things I've been talking about lately is workaholism is a socially accepted drug. It is a drug. It creates dopamine in your brain, same as cocaine would do to a drug addict. It's just that dopamine cycle, and the more you do it, the more you need to be able to get the same rush. And so I'm saying all that because I want people to start not comparing themselves and their journey to other people, because coping mechanisms are most of the time unhealthy because we didn't grow up with the tools
Mhm.
to intervene or try to put them in the balance. Like hopefully the next generation, we trauma survivors are giving the tools to our children to say, hey, is that the best way to react to a situation? But we didn't. And so when you see adults our age, in that range, Gen Xers,
Absolutely.
usually we're all messed up. So
It's all coming from that feeling of insufficiency.
right,
Both.
right.
Because then I became a workaholic. I've been at my company for 25 years. I've worked with the top creatives and executives in Hollywood over a length of time that really is unusual, and a substantial accolade for that is what I received. And I absolutely went into workaholism. And having people at that level, that high level, that high achieving level, um, give you praise, that's just another, that's like, wow,
Yeah.
that that
Right.
can really drive your identity. And then to say, oh, wait, no, take that back, not receiving who you are and feeling sufficient from your doings and your actions, but just for being has been emotionally empowering.
That's beautiful. So you have this amazing journey, and now you are putting it to serve the world by helping women just find, their creativity and become unstoppable. So I absolutely love that. So can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
your coaching and, what are
absolutely.
the, yes.
So I have really lived through the Me Too movement. I have watched women in places of power still be told to go get coffee. And I've also been lucky enough to watch amazing women who bound up the career ladder and be incredible. But for the most part, many of the women that I have worked with and the teams of women that I've worked with, there is a lack of boundaries. And on top of that, you have somebody important who, quite honestly, is telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and that you're always wrong. And that destroys who you are as a human being. It just totally destroys it because you're trying to bend over backwards to do the best job and show up. And the person who you're doing that for, everything is more important than you. And what I do is my back from burnout coach, I coach women who work with these creatives and these executives to create those boundaries. So I have one woman who's working with an Academy Award winning creative who made herself sick in her previous life and very, very sick. She had to quit her job. She had to take a year off. And I actually had recommended her for another job. And when she went to this new job, she was very confident. I'd been working with her. So she had tools, she had strategies, she was able to speak her truth, really opening up like that chakra and making sure that she was coming from a space of, I am here and I exist, I'm human, I have needs, and these are my boundaries. And I have to tell you, she just left that position and the creative still loves her. They were just like, please, would you stay? And she put in all of her boundaries. She negotiated and she's creating this incredible career where her health comes first, where her mental happiness comes first, her soul. And instead of trying to prove to the world, this is what you can do, she's just becoming it.
That is so beautiful because burnout is real, people. I mean, I've gone through it. I remember one day I woke up and I had hives everywhere in my body, like this big. I mean, I had migraines for years and I was like, oh, I just need glasses. But, I don't wear them. They're sitting right there.
Yeah.
But then, like, the hives came and I was like, okay, maybe I need to pay attention to the stress level. Like,
Yeah, I in 2019, I had a cyst develop in my throat that was blocking off
mm,
my it was actually it started in like 2018. For a year and a half, I was trying to treat it, not only with acupuncture, but also when I would have a blowout, I'd look, my neck would like blow out to here.
wow.
And then I had the operation, and then I didn't stop, and it got infected, and I almost died. And so from
Mm,
that moment forward, and it was funny because again, me communicating has always been my issue. So to me, it's not surprising.
right.
Yeah, it was like
I
my
was I was I was just thinking that as an energy healer. It's like, oh, that's your throat chakra. They're saying, pay attention.
exactly. And that really did, again, just like those little things that happen in life that make you wake up and say this isn't working. And
Yes,
it's just been an amazing journey.
that's beautiful. So, if you, as a burnout survivor and as a burnout coach, what would be, let's say, like three practical tips that you can give our listeners to, um, you know, I
Yeah.
would say recognize that you were there because I was in denial for like the longest time. like no burnout. I'm like young and vibrant. Like,
And
because, like,
capable. I can
yeah.
handle whatever the world throws at me. Like, these are people, these are not, we are not weak-souled, weak-willed. We are like so determined and so pushing ourselves forward and really with blinders off. And the first thing I think that you need to do is just kind of take a step back. There are so many cues that when you're ready to see them, like they've been there. And so, when are you sleeping? Are you taking care of yourself? One of the most amazing things is a woman who passed away, who's that I worked with for many years, was the top of her field. She was the best of the best. There were like maybe 8 people in the entire industry who did what she did. And she and I were at a very low point, and we sat together and we talked, and I looked into her eyes, and she's like, I don't believe that I'm even good at my job anymore. Like
Mm.
all of that doubt and that insecurity that was like eating away at who she really was. And that is a huge sign of burnout, but you need to kind of take a step back and you need to see it. And it affected her health. It affected her happiness. It affected her life. And in the end, I believe her daughter actually said like it was the work that killed her. And it's impossibly sad.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's the first thing. Step back. Start to like take a look at the signs. If you're not feeling that you are accomplishing what you need to accomplish at work and that anxiety level is rising, take that moment to step back and ask why. The other thing is anything that you can do to relieve kind of like all of the chemicals, all of the energy, all of that emotional anything, screaming into a pillow, exercising, talk therapy, journaling, and then refocusing it onto something that it's not, I'm going to lose 30 pounds and then my world is going to be better. It's, I am doing this to really just balance myself. Like this is why my bike rides make me happy. The music makes me happy, taking care of myself. And that's just like little things. That movement really helps get your body in flow.
Well, it's
And
like you have to complete the stress cycle, right?
yes, exactly.
And the motion, like the movement, right? Like that's where I became martial art aficionado. I'm a black belt in karate.
Of course
Uh,
you are. Of
right?
course she
Well,
is.
in my trauma, I had to defend myself. I had to protect
Mhm.
myself and my brother. So, because my stepdad was
I'm
not.
good with a gun.
Well, see, like
And throwing knives. Very good.
it's funny because one time I was with my girlfriends growing up. I was with my girlfriends from Panama. They came and we met in LA, and we were walking to dinner. It was a place that it wasn't very nice, and they were freaking out. And I had like heels like this big, and I look around and I'm like, girls, these heels are like a little weapon.
Yes.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah,
I'm like 25, and I'm like, I got it. Like,
exactly. I absolutely get it.
but yeah, I mean, going back to like releasing the emotions, um screaming is fantastic. I literally drive to like a view where you can see the ocean and there's whales and stuff. Sometimes if I'm feeling like too much, first I try to work out or dance it out, or but when it gets to the point where I can't, I drive there. It's like 10 minutes from my house, and I just scream my lungs off for
Mhm.
like as long as I need to. And I cannot tell you, this is like the best thing ever.
Mhm. It is releasing that. The other thing, there's this one, Taryn Toomey. I love her. She has the class.com, which is exercise. I swear it's like Jane Fonda, put to amazing music. And then it's talk therapy. She asks you these questions. And then at the end, she does this incredible heart opener series of arm exercises. And
Mm.
I have bawled my eyes out and released so much just through how she takes you physically through the release. It has been incredible. And I'm sure there are many others who do that.
Beautiful. Okay, did you have like one more to make a series of threes? Because the brain
I
likes threes.
I do. I I really feel that when you're in the middle of your head, and this is a big one for me because I was so angry. was very vengeful. And so I was in my mind really trying to get back at somebody, whether it was now or quite honestly 10 years from now. And having a vision of who and what you would like to be and believing in it and taking you out of that moment of anger and vengefulness or sadness, and understanding that you just don't know what the magic in the world is going to bring. It can bring something completely different and turn the course. And your job in this is to be open to it. And so when you find something that you want to do because you truly honestly, like, your soul wants it for you from a beautiful place. Not, I'll show them, I'm going to make all the money, I'm going to be important, I'm going to do this. I mean, I've traveled the world twice. Like, that was my thing. And each time it didn't make me who I wanted to be. It became part of my journey, but it wasn't the exclamation mark that it actually separated me from people, which I think sometimes when you do things like you've done, Carmen, at that high level, it's very isolating because then people don't understand you. So you're not, it doesn't help.
Right.
Coming from your true self, coming from a place of love, honestly, is the best way to focus on your future and understand that you don't have to react to everything. You can start responding with that intention, that final goal in mind, and just keep on going for it. Whatever comes into your life that will help you, like, get excited and curious and interested, and then just keep on going.
That's so profound. And you also said something that triggered thought, good trigger, a thought right now that I want to share, because it's what we tend to do is isolate ourselves in a way or another. Like, you're right. Like, I didn't have any common ground with anybody because my journey in my mind, what I was doing, it was like not human. Like, had this unrealistic, which I achieved goal, and I was going to do everything about it. But like, I remember like going to the playground and like trying to make friends, because I moved to Alaska and I didn't have any friends. I couldn't have a conversation with another mom because we were in two different universes, right?
Yeah.
But also, it's very important to notice that we need to open ourselves to people, to support. Today actually came in Facebook, one of those memories that pops up. And it was a me of a closet that I finished. Like, I remodeled the closet, and I was pregnant, and I did it all by myself. And I'm very handy. I'm an engineer. And 2 days later, I actually almost died of an ectopic pregnancy. And I'm bringing all this up because there's isolation here. So I went through this horrible emotional thing. It's probably the thing that I have beat myself up the most for, emotionally speaking, because I blame myself, I blame my body, I blame God, I blame everybody for this thing. And my best friend in Alaska came to, like, comfort me, and I sent her off. I said, the best thing you can do for me right now is to leave me alone. And unfortunately, she listened, and we actually broke up for a little bit, but then we're good friends again. But I remember I asked her, because that wasn't conscious, right? I asked her when we reconnected, why did we ever stop talking? And she said, you told me to go away. And because for me, that was the safest thing to do, to close my heart even more, right? Yet another layer of the fortress. Yeah. And just separate myself from the world. And that's what we do when we're trying to overcome trauma. So it is very useful to have friends that can support you, to get a coach that can hold space for you, to get a support network, because we cannot do this alone. I mean, I used to think I didn't need anybody, and it was Carmen against the world, and it was sort of going okay.
Story, right? That becomes the story. Like, you're the rebel, you're the survivor, you are and can do this. And then because of where you're coming from, there's such a lack of trust. And it is true. Slowly but surely building up these connections with people it just adds to the healing, and it makes it easier in the end to forgive. which, again, is for you because you're just letting and releasing. That's like the emotional part of the stress cycle. The trauma cycle is that forgiveness is releasing a lot of mental energy. And again, to just focus on you. And I do believe that we're all one. I believe energetically, like we are all one thing. And we all have our different stories, but when you feel that moment of, oh, we are actually all together in this, it's life changing.
Hmm. Yes.
So I'm just so happy that you're doing this. Again, I hope that somebody finds some wonderful kind of tidbits that you can come from. You don't have to like go to school and get all these grades. I wanted that. I wasn't capable of it mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It wasn't going to be my journey. My journey was, to go a different route. And both, as you said, are incredible and both got us to a place of compassion and empathy and kindness and source.
Beautiful. I mean, yes. And so don't never compare your journey to anybody else. And look at me, you are doing amazing, love. So, and you didn't have to study for like 20
I don't have
years.
student loans. Is that what you're saying?
I would have much rather travel the world. I'm telling you that. Like if I go back, that's what I'm gonna do. So, so Andy, I know you mostly coach women in Hollywood, but if there's someone who is in Hollywood listening to us today or have resonated with your story, how can people find you?
The www.backfromburnoutcoach.com is where I am at. It's a very tight little space. I do one-on-one coaching right now, and I'm just so in love with it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this amazing time.
Carmen.
It's been delightful to chat with you today, and I am absolutely positive that somebody is going to take this interview and heal from it, start their journey, open their heart. So thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'll see you next week in another episode of Living Intentionally. Bye bye. Hey there, thank you for tuning into today's episode of Living Intentionally, the podcast where we explore ways to live with purpose and fulfillment. If you're new here, make sure to hit the follow button so you never miss an episode. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at the Carmen Benton. I'm your host, Carmen Benton. I'll be back next week with more insights and inspiration.